Wednesday, it's 8 p.m. and it's Retro Gaming Revival Live. Thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And right, let's get straight into it tonight. So let's see who we've got with us. We've got Nintendo.
How we doing, everyone?
Triangle Face returning this evening.
Oh.
Blunners.
Oh, yeah.
OEB Dawbs.
Greetings.
And our special guest tonight, a star of YouTube, podcaster, Games World Eliminator champion, and nemesis of a Mr. Big Boy Barry, MeanMachineDean.
Oh, a bit right. Yes, hello, everyone.
Hey.
Sure, it's been done 1,000 times on this show, but it never gets less funnier. So. Yes, welcome. Thank you very much for letting me on. It's great to have a invite, and yeah, I hope you're all keeping nice and cool today. It is a bit warm here in the UK.
It is boiling.
Delightful. Glad the good weather's arrived, to be honest.
Oh, jury's out there, I think.
Yeah, it's too hot. It's too hot already. I'm putting it out there. It's too hot.
There's a level, and when it crosses that level, it gets too hot, in my opinion. But I'm not going to say more. I'm not here to talk about the weather. Very British things to do. But anyway.
Okay, so let's get straight into it then, Dean. You're our guest tonight. So what I would really like to start with is talking about your appearance on the TV show Games World.
Yes.
So how did you apply or even get on Games World? Talk about that process.
This is a very odd story. So me and my brother went to the same secondary school. I believe he was probably in year 9 of secondary school. I think I was in the latter stages of primary school. So our music teacher at the time, we had the same music teacher when I eventually went to that same school. They got an invite to bring kids in as participants in the audience. So if you go through a lot of the old Games World videos, that's why there's a lot of children in the audience, because that's what they use for the audience members. So they would literally contact schools and go, hey, do you want to bring kids in and stuff like that? So anyway, they randomly picked our school. Which strangely enough was not very local, because the actual location of it, I think, was in like East London, and I'm based down south near sunny Slough, so a bit of a distance. But anyway, we'll look past that. So anyway, they invited us. Well, they invited him, to be fair. And this is the part of the story that people don't know. So my brother actually was the first person in the family actually on Games World. However, he actually got eliminated very early on. So when we went for the auditions before you get on there, because they kind of like vetted people to make sure, you know, you can actually be able to hit a button and do something. You know, I was useless. And I'll tell you exactly what happened. Like they get you to play a couple of games. I think one of them was like an R-type tight game. Can't remember what the second one was, but the third one was Street Fighter 2. And I think it was Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, or maybe it was Super Street Fighter 2, because it had the new characters. Now the problem was, I was 9. And I was like, oh, new characters, that's cool. And obviously had no idea how to play them and got obliterated. So obviously I was like, meh, whatever, doesn't really matter. Brother flew through with flying colours and obviously gets eliminated quite early on. Random phone call to house within weeks of him being on the show and getting eliminated. And they're like, do you want to be on the show? And we were like, okay, all right, fine. So then I had to kind of get like special permission to get off school. I then had to, my dad had to like book a day off, and he was like, he's only going to be on there. He isn't going to be on for long, so don't worry about it. It's fine. Anyway, lo and behold, I then obviously get on the show and go on the first show and win the entire thing. And my dad's going, that's brilliant, except now I've got to book another day off work. His words, not mine. So then I kind of go back to school, and we didn't say a thing. I didn't say a thing about winning on the show and stuff. I just said, oh, you know, I went and whatever. So no one knew that I kind of made it all the way through. So yeah, so that's how I got on the show. So it was actually through my brother and through them reaching out through our secondary school, primary school at that time, and that's how we got on.
Wow.
Because watching back some of the clips, you look very young compared to some of the other contestants. So
yeah.
How does that go down? How does that go down? You winning against? Because I think the guy you beat on NBA Jam, he looked like a teenager. He looked a lot older than you.
So one of the things that, and I guess this kind of, I mean, I'll probably touch on this later on in the podcast, is that I don't know why when I was younger, I was very much like, I have to beat everyone that's put in front of me. I don't know if it was something my parents had sort of planted a seed in my head of just not giving up and carrying on. But when I was there, it's funny because I can still actually do it. For somehow I can actually put myself in this like tunnel vision where everything just gets blocked out. And it was quite weird because there was some times where I just focused into this zone where people would like tap in the show going, all right, you can stand up now. Like, you stop filming. You're just like, oh, right, okay, I can do this. Because you get so like into this zone that you just forget about everything else that's around you. So it was a very surreal moment. But yeah, it was a very weird experience being, I think I was the youngest, I don't know, I think I was the youngest competitor on there. I could be wrong there. I think there may have been someone slightly younger, but I was definitely the youngest person to make it to the grand final for sure. So yeah, it was a very, very weird experience being a kid that age and then being sort of, well, put in front of cameras and lights, and there's obviously all this fuss going on around you. So it was a bit of a daunting experience, especially at that age.
Yeah, I could imagine. And obviously, you, I say obviously, people might not know, but I know, and the panel know, you won the eliminator. You were the champion of the. So what do you get for winning the eliminator champion?
Now here's something for you. You don't see many of these floating around on eBay. Yeah, I said that. This is my Games World original eliminator champion, which I wore in the show. Big boy Barry ain't got one of these. Have you, Alex? No, I've got one. Anyway, I love you, Alex. I love you. But yeah, so that's the original one, and on the back it says the eliminator. Now, true story about the jacket. When I won it, they almost didn't. When I won it, they didn't let me take it home. I had to like beg them, and they were like, "Well, we want to keep it here just in case you forget it. We haven't got one to film with." And I was like, "Trust me, that thing is coming off these shoulders. It's going to stay with me permanently." So fortunately, they let me take it home, and then obviously I went to school, and I was like, "Ta-da!" And everyone was like, "Oh," and I was like, "It actually happened." So that thing has been in the family for a long time. Funny enough, I was actually looking to actually get it like put in one of these. I don't know if you've seen them, like some people do it with football shirts or memorabilia. I was actually going to put it like
frames,
a frame or something, but I don't know. There's something about taking it out and just holding it sometimes that I don't know. It still feels very nostalgic for me to actually physically hold the thing. So yeah,
that's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Something to have is amazing.
It's amazing when you hear the stories of like these TV shows approaching schools to get people in. It's like, my school never had anything like that. The only thing our school ever had, and it wasn't even video game related, so I don't know why I bring it up, it's quite embarrassing, but our school had the band 98 Degrees, which had the guy that was married to Jessica Simpson for a little while. Was it like Nick Lachey?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I remember
it was his band before whatever made really famous, so they like turned up in like some sort of limo at our school, and everyone just walked out like, what is going on?
Can I have a ride?
Oh, mate.
Don't worry about him. Let me get in the car.
Then you get Sky TV and Games World coming to your school, and I get flipping Nick Lachey.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, you trumped us. We had Code Red come to our school. Remember them? They were on Eurovision one year, and junior school. I think Chris Akabusi rocked up. So
I did go to school with Chris Akabusi's daughter, so he used to do our Friday running club. So there we go. Totally off topic. I'm good at that.
Oh, you've trumped me there. So
he's a legend, wasn't he? Amazing.
He was. But anyway, get back to Games World. So you win the Eliminator challenge. You go through to it was the Wednesday final, wasn't it? I used to have Sky back then. The Tuesday night, was that the Games Mistress episode? Everyone remembers that one with Jet from Gladiators. Yeah.
Hey, what about?
So the Eliminator. Tell us about the videators you faced on the Eliminator challenge.
So I've done this story a few times, but it's fascinating. So you never really know who you're going to face. So I don't know if probably the best way to describe it is to give you a description of the actual studio. So when you watch it, you actually think the studio is a lot bigger than what it actually is. And I remember turning up as a kid going, this is not as big as I thought. I was like, oh, okay, this seems a bit different to what I was experiencing. What I was seeing, sorry. So you kind of had the main, let's look for a better term, auditorium area. You kind of got the center place where everyone walks on, and then you kind of got the audience that goes around with the TV in the side, and then the one where you push the fancy button that never actually did anything to pick your videator. And then if you watch where people would go into the pit, to the right of that was a set of stairs. If you look carefully, you can just see the banister run above it. that set of stairs took you up to the main suite. So you kind of had the production office. They would have a big open room that I think from memory was actually as big as the actual filming area. And it would be consoles there, food, this, that, and the other. And I think there was an arcade machine of Turtles in Time, if I remember correctly. So I remember playing on that. Anyway, that aside, you would kind of sit down and play all the games that were potentially picked. So you had to kind of practice all of them, otherwise you'd get schooled, which I'll come on to in a bit. But you can probably work out why. But yeah, so, you know, you would sit down and all of a sudden, you know, a random videator would just come and sit next to you and you'd be like, oh, right, we're playing this then. So it's like, okay. And then you'd be like, move off to another like practice area and just some random person sit next to you and like, who are you? And they're like, oh, I just work here. And it's not, it's like another videator that you made. So yeah, so the videator thing was quite interesting because I never really knew who I was going to get. However, when they asked me, the three hits that I wanted the most was Master Moriarty because I detested him, but I'm sure he's a lovely guy now. Yeah. The Violet Blade and obviously Big Boy Barry himself. And lo and behold, I got all three. The one I feared the most was Mathers. He was the one I feared the most because he was clinical in everything he did. And I knew 9-year-old versus that is not going to end well. Barry, I was like, I might have a smidge, just a chance, just to chip away. Look, didn't happen, but never mind. But yes, that's how the videos work. So a lot of them were just meandering about, but you never actually knew which ones you were going to get.
Okay, so what games did you face them on?
So the three I had was World Heroes 2 Jet, which is on the Neo Geo, which is a masterpiece of a fighting game if you've not played it. I actually practiced that a lot. So like most of my, I guess, gaming upbringing mainly was around actually beat 'em ups. So beat 'em ups is like a massive core of who I am. So like as soon as I found out, I was like, yeah, Neo Geo, yeah. And I just spent ages playing this and like learning all the characters. And I try and figured out who was like the strongest character. And I worked out it was this guy called Ryofu who had this big ass spear and he like blew fire and everything. And I was like, yeah, that's the type of guy I need. Yeah, just massive range and just bludgeon him to death. You know, that's what I need. So there was that. There was NBA Jam, and here's an interesting story. Was it a month? I think it was a month before I went on Games World. My dad had bought me NBA Jam, and it's still actually in here. And it's actually got a £59.99 sticker on it from Blockbuster. And my dad never let me forget it. And do you know what? I kept it on there as a reminder to myself of, you know, how hard our parents used to work to buy these things. So that's why I've actually left the sticker on there. So he actually bought me that a month before we went on. So I played that religiously because I was like, if this has just come out, 9 times out of 10, it's probably going to be actually played in the show. Fortunately, my gamble massively paid off. And then the last game was Smash Tennis. And yeah, when I was talking about games I didn't practice, it was that one. Because tennis games, I was like, no one's going to watch tennis games on Games World. Yes, they did, Dean.
And then, whoops.
Yes, they did. Didn't they, Big Boy Barry?
So, obviously, there was a slight controversial moment following your defeat to Big Boy Barry. Do you want to share that with people watching? And
yeah, so it's a funny story in hindsight, but when I was a kid, it wasn't. So, you know, the story was around storylines and stuff like that, right? So, yes, there he is. Yeah, the same jacket. It's the same jacket. I wish I was that size again. Never mind. Fast food, damn you. Anyway, so yeah, so you know, the whole thing was based around storylines on Games World to tell a different, you know, narrative rather than just games playing, which is obviously a very clever way of getting people interested. Now, I half knew about the fact that Barry and Violet Blade had a bit of beef because I used to watch the show as well. So they never told me what I'm assuming you're about to show next, which was that if I had actually beaten the Violet Blade, he would go and storm off and, you know, get up on one. And when I lost to Barry, the Violet Blade storms the stage with a baseball bat, which you can imagine as a 9-year-old is yeah, pretty scary. Yeah. Bob then suddenly like pulls me back in. He doesn't just pull me in; he pulls me in quite hard, and actually in quite close.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And there's no like, oh, you know, by the way, this is all a bit of a play. You know, don't worry about it, type of thing. So I'm sitting there absolutely bricking it because, like, Blady boys come charging down the hallway, baseball bat in hand, giving it the big un, stomping on the stage, and I'm being pulled in tight. As a 9-year-old, you'd be pretty terrified.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, so you see him like hit Barry, I think, in the stomach or something, and then he wheels him away, and I'm just like,
what's good?
What? And the thing is like, and I've said this to Alex, Big Boy Barry, a lot of times. I massively looked up to him. So to see like your mentor, the person you look up to, get battered with a baseball bat and then suddenly dragged off. Again, as a 9-year-old, is pretty traumatic. So, lo and behold, like I could, in fact, if you actually watch the video footage back, I know the exact point when I cried. So yeah, I just suddenly started bawling my eyes out. Bob said something which I'm not going to repeat, which is still stuck with me. I think he was having a bit of a bad day, but I love Bob Mills. And you know, all the cameras cut, and then it was funny because no one really knew what to do. I think someone must have gone off to get my parents or something. And I remember Barry was one of the first people to come out. So there was I've always forgotten the name of the characters now. It was the people who sort of like dragged the people who lost off the stage. I can't remember the names of them. They were like the chaperones, for a better term. One of those came charging on the stage, and Barry came running through. And I was like, "Huh? You're all right? What's going on here?" And he was like, no, it's all fake. You know, there's nothing in it. And he like explained the whole thing. And I was like, well, yes, now you've explained it. Now it makes sense.
You think they tell you that before they start filming?
So yeah, they obviously were going for the shock factor, but yeah, I think once that had happened, they suddenly realised the error of their ways, and yeah, it stuck with me for a while. But it's quite horrible watching it back, because the part after that I had to play I think Sniper's Alley, I think was the game. So there's a bit where you kind of bet your points, and you know, you kind of have the thing spinning around. You have to shoot the videators. And I still had tears in my eyes, and as I'm looking, my vision's all like blurred and stuff. So I'm kind of like, that looks like a videator, bang. That looks like a videator, bang. I'm just like trying to see through it. But yeah, it was not my proudest moment to break down on national TV. Fortunately, they cut it very well. So good job, Hewland International. But it's still one of those stories that, you know, kind of helps tell the story of how, you know, me and myself and Alex and so on and so forth goes on. So yeah, something I'll always remember, that's to say, is always tell people, if you're going to do something, don't traumatize them.
Right, let's see. I've never shared a video on here before, but let's see if we can share that that clip from your
that
YouTube
exact
channel.
moment. Exactly.
Yeah,
just give me some PTSD. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just see.
Yeah, so there's that. You can see my reaction. I'm like, you what? Right, so he gets it there.
Oh, yeah,
I'm like, okay. Bob pulls me in. I'm like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And the problem is, he's like, Rick Henderson, Violet Blade, actually looked at me screaming in my face. So at that point, I was like, oh, great. So I'm the next one then. So yeah, so you can see my face. I'm just like, So I think when they cut, when they cut to ads, I think it was when I started crying. So yeah, it's yeah, not my proudest moment, but yeah, you can see just how bemused I am.
Yeah,
I mean, I laugh about it looking back at it, but yeah,
you're completely stunned.
I mean, I can't remember if Bob had an earpiece.
Mad.
I don't know if they were talking to him, going, "I think he's going to go any minute," because he was constantly talking to me like, "That's all right, it's all right, keep yourself together, it's all right," you know. So, but yeah, it's one of those stories. But you know, I'm in hindsight, I'm still kind of glad it happened. It's I don't know, it kind of strengthened me maybe mentally to deal with things in the future. Who knows?
You can definitely see on the last game, as you mentioned, you can tell your head's not there.
Yeah.
Your concentration's gone, quite rightly so. And I think any 9-year-old in that position would have felt exactly the same.
You're just one away from beating it, weren't you, on the Sniper Alley?
Yeah, just one away, yeah.
I should have let you have it after going through that.
Do you know what? Like, I kind of sat there and went, well, yeah, they could have done that, but I don't know. I guess I kind of felt like, you know, I just wanted to sort of get on with it and deal with it. So, you know, maybe it was just meant to be. I could have kicked up a stink. I could have tried to be, you know, awkward about it. In fact, there was a lot of rumours about me, or my parents, sorry, storming up to the to the production office and saying X, Y, Z, and it's absolutely not true. Absolutely not true at all. Otherwise, I would have won it. So there's your proof.
And you made it onto the leaderboard. And did you get through to the grand final of that series?
So strangely, like I can't remember how many points I ended up with. I think I was like
it was 50 odd, I think, or something like that.
Yes, I think I was like 8th place. So I think it was the top 10 from memory at the end of the series that went through to the grand final. So I was like, all right, fine, no problems. I said, all right, fine. You know, if I get through, cool. If I don't, whatever, doesn't matter. And I actually stopped watching the series because I was like, I don't want to know. Right? If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, that's cool. Anyway, lo and behold, phone call to the house. You've just scraped into the final at number 10. I was like, oh, that's a turn up for the books. Okay, fair enough. So then lo and behold, my dad's going, oh great, I've got to take another day off work. I'm like, all right, Dad, cheers for the support, mate. Yeah, really appreciate it. So I took another day off work, and I remember it was really cold, really, really cold. It must have, I don't know if it was around December time, maybe, but I remember that for some reason they would always make us wear t-shirts, and I'm like, you need to like rehearse lines and all this stuff, and you're like, I'm in a cotton t-shirt in like, you know, -5 outside. Last time I checked, not cool. So you'd have certain bits of your body would get very hard, let's say that, but not that before you state that. It was like really tough, and then you sort of go from hot to cold to hot to cold. But it was still a very awesome experience to even be able to make it to the grand final and actually see your name on this thing. Really, really great experience to actually be on there and be part of, I guess, part of history and lore to some extent.
So how soon after it was filmed was it shown on TV then?
I'm trying to actually remember. I would say it was a good few months, I think. So I remember, hang on, let me get this right. I think let me get this right. So I think the first episode I was on, I think, was about 3 weeks after we had filmed it. I think the next one was like 2 weeks after that had filmed it, and then obviously I had to wait that period of time for the grand final to then be filmed, then for them to edit and then put it on. So it was probably about 4 to 5 months maybe in total for the entire thing. But I've still got a VHS that I recorded off Sky. Sorry, copyright. Which is where all that footage has come from, basically.
It's great. I mean, that's the only way that people have managed to keep and immortalize these shows, because I mean, even with Games Master, you know, the only way to watch any of these is on YouTube now.
Yeah.
And I've been working my way through Games World because it wasn't something I had a lot of experience with as a kid, because I didn't have Sky as a kid. But I've been sort of plowing my way through Games World now because it's a completely new show for me, and I'm very much into, well, as we all are, we're all into nostalgia. Otherwise, we wouldn't love retro games. So it's got to have all that stuff on VHS somewhere.
I was that envious kid. I was one of the lucky people to have Sky in the early 90s, the big white B-Sky B dish on the side. And I'm sure my dad told me it was like £500 for the dish and decoder and receiver, and it was like £2.50 a month, and you got like 15 channels or something. And I'm like, I said to him recently, how did you afford that? He was like, well, I just wanted Sky, so we just did.
I won't tell you what my dad did. My dad had a laptop and his own card he made somehow.
I was about to say that. I think a lot of people around that time period knew a guy who had a laptop down the pub who managed to legally do it.
Yeah.
Sky as a kid was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But as I said to Barry, there was 3 programs on Sky One: Simpsons, WWF Challenge, and Games World.
Yeah.
And what more did you need as a 9-10-year-old kid?
That's your staple, isn't it? Your staple viewing. That's that.
Exactly.
That and the X-Files thing for me. We always used to watch X-Files and Sky One.
Compete between me and Randy Savage. I mean, what else do you need?
Well, sorry, Nintendo.
I was going to say, there's this really weird noise that keeps coming through my headset, and I keep muting my mic just in case it's my headset. I just didn't know if anyone else was experiencing it, whether it's just me going mad.
Is it my fan? Is that better?
Might be your fan, Dawbs.
Unbelievable.
He's host one week and he thinks he runs the place now. Even turns up
sabotage your one. I'm after your job.
Well, we have a quick break now, and we've got plenty more questions for you, Dean. So
cool,
When I say a quick break, it literally is about 5 seconds. There we go. As I say, it's a very quick break. So, following Games World, were there any other TV appearances for yourself?
There was actually. There was a TV show called GamerWeb that I was on. I'm trying to remember the name of the TV show, TV channel. It was on Sky, but yeah, it was called GamerWeb. I don't think it was actually the name of the channel. Maybe it was. Basically, I met a few friends of mine. Obviously, I stayed around gaming, and I kind of heard about GamerWeb and things like that. And I always watched the show, and I always wanted to be on it. And I used to be massively into Pro Evo, like massive.
Oh, mate, so am I.
Yeah. And I started getting to a stage where I was playing it like semi-professional. And I remember watching the people play it, and I was like, I've got to get on that show. I've got to get on the show. I've got to start schooling people, because I'm like, there is no way people could be that bad. I was like, there's no way. Anyway, lo and behold, they had a forum. We started talking to people and stuff like that. And then they arranged for me to come on. And I think it was in Victoria Street, I think, somewhere in London. It was a smallish office, and I actually met a good friend of mine who's actually been on my podcast, Stu Kennedy, also known as Abominable. He's now an esports caster, and he's a very, very good friend of mine. We met each other there, and there was a few other people I've met through there. So yeah, it wasn't as I don't know, as fanfared as my appearance on Games World, but it's still another appearance on TV.
Awesome. I would have loved to have been on a Games World Games Master, but as Nintendo Lee said earlier, our schools were never that cool.
But Pro Evo, though, play that all day, all night, constantly. Loved it.
It's probably the only football game that I can hand on heart say I've played. And that sounds really. Football goes well over my head, as most people know. But Pro Evo, there's something about it. I mean, maybe FIFA is good. I don't know, but Pro Evo was always the game that we would play when I had my shared house. You know, end up drinking far too much and cracking out the PS2 and playing some Pro Evo. That was I've got great memories of that, and I don't even like football.
Sensible soccer. That's everybody's game.
Classic.
Well, the only football game I like is Sensible Soccer for me.
Well, we've got a question for you at the end, Dean, about your favourite football game. It's to do with our webcast next week. So save your favourite football game, because you've got a chance to enter our Cup next week with your favourite game. And we've got a question here just before we move on to Big Boy Barry and the Revenge. It's from Essex Retro Gamer, friend of the page. What are Dean's best gaming moments, both from a warm fuzzy feeling moment and a gaming achievement moment?
Oh, now that you see, that's strictly speaking, that's two questions, but I'll let it go. Because you've got the name Retro in your username. I'm kidding. Warm fuzzy feeling. I would actually probably say from when I was on Games World, actually playing NBA Jam, because I was so good at the game that I just knew I was going to win. I know that sounds really awful to say and overconfident, but I don't know why. I just had the Midas touch for some reason. And as soon as I was playing it, I just felt so comfortable and at ease. And it's funny, because if you actually watch the footage back, I actually look so much like lethargic. But I'm just like, whatever, this is easy work. But, being able to win and then get that jacket, that's probably the warm, fuzzy feeling moment. As for gaming achievement, good question. This is a funny one. I went to a tournament a while ago when was it? I think it was in the early 2000s. It was being held in Hounslow, and they did a Halo 2 tournament. It was Pro Evo, and I think there was a third game, which I can't quite remember. Anyway, I took part in the Pro Evo one. Fortunately, I didn't get through. I wasn't as good as I thought. But one thing I did do was a guy was beating me 3-0, and they managed to come back and level it 3-3. The last goal I scored, I chipped his keeper from between the halfway line and like the 18-yard box. So I managed to chip his keeper.
Chipped his keeper.
It was that good that I stood up, pulled my pad out, and walked off. And I went, game over. And then as he started, whistle blew. That is how you finish the game.
That is how you finish the game.
And everybody went, huh? And I went,
was that the finesse and square also?
It was, yeah. All of that, mate. Yeah. All of that.
Unbelievable.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was one of those moments where it happens and you just go,
"See ya, I'm out." Mic drop.
See you later, lads.
I'm glad you said pulled your pad out. I thought you were going to say pulled your pants down.
No, I haven't. No. I mean, I'm confident. I'm not that confident. But,
just wow.
That's a Saturday night trip.
Right. Okay. So, as I mentioned just a minute ago, Big Boy Barry and Revenge on. It should be Revenge of Big Boy Barry, I guess. Revenge on Big Boy Barry. However you want to word it. So. You mentioned earlier that Big Boy Barry beat you on Games World. So talk us about the 25-year wait to play it, or however long it was to play it again.
So looping back to when we first played, I never practiced the game, as I alluded to earlier. So yeah, I never played the game at all. So he absolutely destroyed me. There was a couple of moments where I showed a couple of pieces of brilliance, and I'm going to cling on to those. There was a couple of returns I did, and even he went, "Oh," and I went, "Yeah, exactly." See that? I didn't. I was a very quiet kid back then. So anyway, he absolutely slaughtered me, and for some reason, it started this thing in my head where I was like, "You don't give up," which comes back to the drawing 3-3 in that game. Most people would have gone 3-0, game over, whatever. For some reason, in my head, it's just like, until the last thing happens, you just keep fighting till the end. So it kind of fired this thing up inside of me. So lo and behold, fast forward a few years, social media then starts, and I kind of sat there and I went, I wonder how many people were still, around in Games World and, videators and people like that. And yeah, I said, okay, all right, fine. I found Big Boy Barry. I wasn't confident enough to speak to him. And there was a couple of other videators like Rick Henderson, the Violet Blade. Good friends with him, talk to him quite often. And then, slowly I started talking to Barry, and I was like, I've uploaded these videos to YouTube. If you want some nostalgia, they're available now. And we slowly started dialogue, and he suddenly remembered who I was and stuff like that. And we started, becoming friends again. And then it happened. So I waited a long time, and I always said to my mum, one day I'm going to meet this guy again, and it's going to happen. She went, no, just let it go. No, it's going to happen. Anyway, I went to Play Expo in Blackpool in 2019 before the world decided to go a bit crazy. And I remember I got there the night before it started. So it was on Saturday and Sunday. So I got there on a Friday. And we went to, I wish I could remember the name of the restaurant because it's got the most hilarious name ever. What is his name? Mr. Bazrai's World Cuisine or something to that effect. It's in Blackpool. And it's basically an all-you-can-eat buffet with as many foods as you can get, right? So every cuisine you can imagine. So I go in, there's a couple of my mates, we sit down, surrounded by YouTube, amazing people, and then there's just me plopped in the middle, like, you all right? Yeah. And then someone nudges me and goes, "Oi," and throws their phone across the table. Now, Ian Lee was actually meant to go there to do like a Q&A session with a few of these YouTubers, and he was meant to be presenting it. Now, unfortunately, Ian Lee couldn't actually make it there, so they replaced him with Big Boy Barry. And that was what was slid over the table, and I picked it up, and it was the leaflet, which was what was used in my video of Big Boy Barry being at Play Expo. And till this day, the person who was sat opposite me went, "Are you all right?" And apparently my whole demeanor just changed from this lovable, happy guy to this "it's actually going to happen" moment, right? And I stopped eating, and they were like, "Are you all right?" I don't know. And they were like, "You've really gone weird." I was like, "Yeah, I know. Like, I've been waiting like 25, 27 years to play this guy again, so it's actually going to happen." So anyway, in the back of my mind, I'm like, all right, if I meet Barry, whatever, cool, no problems at all. So get to Play Expo, have a laugh, meet some friends, play some games, this, that, and the other. If you've not been to Play Expo, I would suggest you go by it. It's an amazing event that they put on around the country, especially if you're into your arcade and pinball machines. Oh, wonderful, wonderful places. But yeah, so I was walking about, and they have a what's the word you can call it? Like a market for retro games. And I didn't know, but my mate walked off and bought a copy of the game that we played for a £5. and he slapped it in my hand and he went, "I've bought this game for you. If you don't play Barry by the end of this weekend, I'm going to be really peed off with you." And I was like, all right. Anyway, we go off into the room where they're doing this talk, and I'm sitting about halfway in the audience on the right-hand side. So I'm trying to not make myself obvious. I'm just sort of sitting there. Anyway, someone on stage goes, "Oh, by the way, Barry, you remember that little boy you beat on Games World? He sat there." I stood up and he looked at me and he just went, "Yeah, this is going to happen, isn't it?" Anyway, he was giving it the big boy Barry, and I'm just standing there like, "Yeah, right, whatever, mate." And then everyone's like, "You're going to have to play this out." And he was like, nah. Anyway, gets to the end of the event, and they were having like an after party. Well, they were just about to, and Alex came walking through past the arcade, and everybody swarmed in and went, "You're playing him right now." And I went, "Oh, this is happening, isn't it?" So all of a sudden, the nearest like SNES got like just thrown out of nowhere, and we all just sort of got bundled down this table, and then we played again. And to be honest, it was the first time I had seen him since I was on Games World. So you imagine how many years that is.
Man.
But do you know what? And I said it quite well in the video, like, to see him again after all those years, and he genuinely is one of the nicest people you can ever meet. It was just such a nice moment. Yes, I got my revenge. Come on, get it. But honestly, he is one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and to actually just be able to sit next to him and play a game again after all those years was just such a magical moment. And yeah, to in fact, let me pick the picture off if you've not seen it. To have this picture, which I will probably get framed at some point. Apologies for the quality, but to have that again is a moment that I will cherish for many years. So yeah, it was awesome after all those years to be able to see him, and yeah, I've got a bit of a soft spot for him, to say the least.
Oh, I think we have as well, 100%.
It was really. It is always good, isn't it, when you get to meet people like that? I guess when you're a kid, and then you get to meet them when you're a bit older and they're a bit older, and it's still like, oh, you're still like a really nice guy. That's can't go wrong with any of that.
Yeah. And do you know what? That he was very supportive. Because kind of when I was thinking about content creation or streaming or stuff like that, even when we kept in contact, he was always like, you should always start something up. Oh, you should always do that. You should always do it. And I was like, nah, I don't know if I can be. And he was like, look, you've clearly got the drive to do it. Go out and do it. So a lot of what I've achieved is pretty much down to him constantly being this driving force behind me, which is why I absolutely adore the man.
Yeah, because that video on your YouTube channel, the one you mentioned, I think it's about 6 or 7 minutes long, and it's so good because it's got the clip from Games World. You sort of zoom in on your disappointment when you're a kid, go to black and white, sad music, and then it goes to sort of like, or present time as it was back then, Blackpool Expo, the rematch. It's a brilliant video. Anyone can check it out. It's a great video.
Yeah, definitely. I would play a clip now, but I think people need to go to your channel and watch it because it deserves a full. It deserves a full 7 minutes view because it's edited really well.
Brilliant.
It is a really good video. Okay, so following your revenge of Big Boy Barry, what are you up to at the moment in the gaming world?
So the majority of what I normally do is actually Twitch streaming. So since retro is still a massive part of me and always will be, to be fair, I have how long have I been streaming for? I think it's over 3 years now. 9 months of that was actually streaming to nobody, which is a weird experience. Imagine streaming games to nobody and talking to yourself. Yeah, I think you've gone insane. But yeah, it's honestly been a very humbling experience. And the one thing I can say about streaming is I think in the last year, especially in 2020 with COVID and stuff like that going on, it's massively helped because I think, so it's a bit odd streaming because obviously, I'm talking, I'm reading text back, right? I'm not getting that one-to-one communication. But knowing that someone's out there that you can kind of interact with and you're kind of getting feedback was actually a godsend. And I know a lot of people have been through a lot of troubles during COVID and felt very lonely, but I think a lot of people turn to streaming or watching streams just for that kind of, I guess, company to a certain degree. So Twitch streaming has actually been a very, very good release for me. Especially for things like mental health and actually being able to communicate and talk to people as well. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, if you've seen any of my streams recently, it's chaos. There's all sorts of weird noises that go off. There's all sorts of madness that carries on. But my whole setup now is complete. That I can basically pull a console off. That I've got the whole retro collection up there of all sorts that I can just put into here and suddenly start streaming with. So, I mean, I do play the odd bit of VR and everything in between, but yeah, retro is the majority of what I do. And to be honest, I absolutely love it. People seem to enjoy my content, so as long as they keep turning up, I'll keep streaming.
Out of interest, when you're streaming some of the more retro stuff, what are you using as like your unit, your setup? Because with things like, you know, PS5, even PS4 and all that kind of stuff, it's almost built into the system. As long as you've got the camera, you're good to go. So yeah, I'm just out of curiosity, what are you using?
So a lot of what I learned about streaming was through trial and error. I've had streams that have completely failed. I've had streams where I've turned my PC on and things went wrong. In fact, and this is a true story, I was doing a stream for the charity Special Effect. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they basically take control pads and they completely break them down for people with physical disabilities. So, for instance, if someone can't press a button as hard, or maybe they haven't got the use of one side of their body, or maybe they haven't got use of any parts of their body, they would actually make these custom setups so people can actually play normal games using all this tech. So in fact, in front of me, I've actually got one of their pieces of kit, which is actually an eye tracker. So I do play a little bit of Euro Truck Sim, and if I look left and right, it actually turns the head left and right. So there's a perfect.
That's amazing.
And I actually did a stream. When was it? In February for Game Blast, which is their big event they do every year. And I actually managed to play Minecraft with just my eyes, and that is a very surreal experience, but very cool. But anyway, I digress. Coming back to what I use, basically, I've worked out through trial and error that I've basically got an Elgato capture card inside this PC. That goes into my brand new RetroTink 5X, which is a line doubler. So it will basically take your retro input and suddenly make it look into this wonderfully beautiful picture, which looks great, but I don't know why it takes some of the shine away. I like that gritty look, you know, that old original look. You know, you put it in these lovely new TVs and it looks too polished, but I kind of have to for the digital world. But anyway, I digress again. So I've got it going into that. And then that box has basically got a SCART input or a variety of different inputs, or in some cases, which I'm currently doing at the moment, I'm taking an original Xbox and putting a HDMI input on it.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool indeed.
Yeah, but you always see, I think Metal Jesus has done quite a lot of videos around various upscalers and various sort of HDMI ports, and the RetroTink is one that comes up all the time. It seems to be almost an invaluable bit of kit if you want to digitize your sort of more retro consoles.
I don't know if I've got it here. In fact, for the best part of 3 years, I was actually using this. I think it was like a £24 box. It's like what everyone uses for plugging in retro consoles into a HDMI. It's like a tiny little black square that you've kind of put everything in. And I was using that for the best part of 3 years. Yeah, something similar to that. Yeah. I was using that for the best part of like 2 to 3 years. So it's only recently I got the RetroTink 5X, and even I've noticed the quality. I mean, yesterday I put what did I put through it? I put through a Saturn through it, and it looks just absolutely fantastic through that box. So if you are interested in getting a RetroTink, then just search for it for a 5X. Tell them that I said you know. Do go and buy it, because it is an amazing thing. And, Mike, who makes him, does a fantastic job. It is a brilliant product.
Excellent. So it's all like original hardware through the RetroTink. That's your model.
So what have I got? I mean, I would show you the entire collection, but unfortunately this room does look like a slight bomb has hit it. But I mean, you know, there's GameCubes up there, there's a PS1, there's 2 Saturns, there's a Mega CD, original Famicom, Amiga is something that I do quite often, which I do enjoy. I do enjoy a good Commodore Amiga.
That's Ben's little weak spot, that isn't it?
Panasonic 3DO, enjoy that.
That's a system that's seen a bit of a sharp rise as well in price recently.
Yeah, the retro price at the moment, in my opinion, the N64 is the biggest joke in terms of price. Some of the games and the consoles have just gone astronomical, and for no reason at all. And it's weird that we come onto the subject. I actually feel that in order to experience nostalgia, you shouldn't have to pay a high premium. And I feel like, you know, if it's a very rare game and it's sealed and, you know, it's an exclusive one-off, whatever, then, yeah, you know, you should obviously pay a premium for that if it's an exclusive thing. But I've seen original, like, N64s going for like 120, 140 pounds, and I'm like, that's almost the same
Mad.
retail price from what it was back then. So yeah, the retro pricing is a little bit wayward, but the one thing that I do have that not many people do is a Sega Multi-Mega. If you don't know what one of those is, get a Mega Drive and a Mega CD and go, meh, and that's basically what he did. So it's about that big, and it's got a little flip-up lid, and it's basically got a slot in the back so you can put your cartridges in. It's got a little flip-up lid, and it was meant to be a games console and also a portable CD player. Now, the portable CD player takes none less than 6 AA batteries, which will give you about 10 minutes.
Wow. Amazing.
Phenomenal.
Era, isn't it?
Amazing. I'm trying to find a picture of it at the moment, and I think I have found it. So I've never seen one of these before.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
I know, we're all excited. You're putting pressure on me now. I've got to find.
Well, I can fill in the gap. So the actual console, I used to work in a game station store many moons ago, and yeah, that's the exact one. So
there's portable CD.
Yeah, so there was there's that, and then there's also a US one, which I think is called a CDX, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
it's exactly the same, basically, except one's from America and the other one's from obviously from Europe. But the only one issue with this is you can't put a 32X in it. Some would see that as an issue. Some would see it as a blessing. The jury's out on that. I'm not going to say anymore. But yeah, that thing is a thing of beauty. And basically, I had it for the best part of about 18 years, broken. Okay, so I got it from Game Station, broken. The lid was knackered on it. It wouldn't output any video footage. I'm trying to remember what else was wrong with it now. If you put batteries in it, it didn't light up. So it was just a bit of a mistake. It was one of those things where I held on to it going, one day I'll look at it. Anyway, years and years go by, and then suddenly I kind of get into this retro community, and I find this wonderful man on Twitter called Aegon, Simon Locke. If you haven't heard of him, go and check him out. He's the savior that resurrected this and my Panasonic 3DO. He resurrected both of them from the death of retro hell and got them working again, and both of those have been used on my stream, so I owe him a lot, actually. But yeah, to have that thing running again is a minor miracle, and I enjoy playing with it with people on stream. The only problem is I have to play Mega CD games, and yeah, if you've ever played those Mega CD games, they're a little bit questionable. I did try and do a long play of Road Avenger once, and it caused me PTSD. So yeah.
I always really wanted a 32X when they came out. I had a few like Mega Drive magazines and stuff for advertising it, and I thought it looked really cool. I really liked Sonic the Hedgehog, and I really wanted to play the Knuckles game coming out on there. And I never got a 32X. I don't think I even saw them in the shops. It just came and went. And I finally got to play some 32X games on a Retro Pi, like 25 years later. Like I finally played 32X. It's on my Retro box, and the games were just not good. So I played that Knuckles game for about 5-10 minutes. I was like, yeah, I'm done. Waited 25 years to play this game. Didn't even play it 25 minutes.
I'm just thinking. I think the one decent game I did play on there was the Doom port that was made for it for the 32X. Is actually
visually it's great, but I think the audio is still a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you play it with the mute button off, then yeah, it's fantastic. You just when you walk around, and you fire the game, you just go do it yourself. So you know,
I'm pretty sure I'd read somewhere that the 32X was originally going to be a standalone console between the Mega Drive and the Sega Saturn. Was it the Neptune?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And someone somewhere along the line went, "Now just make it an add-on for the Mega Drive because the Saturn's in development. It'll be it's not going to go well."
It just reminded me of a funny story. So when I used to work at Game Station, we used to have like a retro section, which, funny enough, is where most of all this stuff has come from. And I remember we had like 3 32Xs come in. And I was like, so if we get a Mega Drive and we put a 32X in it, and then put a 32X in it, and then put a 32X in it, will it still run a cartridge? And it did, but it wasn't any better. It was just there. But the hilarious thing is like with every peripheral from Sega, it was like, you must have a power supply. Yes. So you have one power supply, and then you plug this in, the power supply. And I need an extension lead. Sega, do you sell extension leads? No, but you can buy a 15 plug extension lead because you're going to need all of them. I think the worst one I saw was the infrared controller. That was one of the worst things that came through my eyes. I was like, oh, this is quite advanced for its day. That's quite good. He's standing like this hexagon shape, and each direction is something. So that's a jump, and that's right. And you play Sonic like that. You look like you're trying to land a plane. You're like, it was not the best, but at least they tried. It's the effort.
Can it be any worse than the Power Glove, which I think for Rad Racer worked, but for everything else was just no.
The problem is the Power Glove looks cool. That's the problem. I hate it. But you make that face, but I'll tell you what, if you walk around a Retro Expo and you're walking around with one of them, they'll go, he's got a Power Glove.
Yeah,
this is true.
They're well expensive on eBay. They're going for an absolute fortune.
If you walk around with a 32X, you're going to go, look at that mug. Sorry if you like the 32X. Sorry.
I don't think it's got many good games on it. Maybe the Star Wars arcade was not a terrible port. That was quite good.
Yeah, I'll let that go.
Yeah, everything else I think was just a bit didn't quite hit the nail. I think
the word is meh. Is what I would
meh. So with your podcast and YouTube channel, Dean, who are some of the you obviously you've had Big Boy Barry on there. We've touched upon that, but who else can our viewers find on your channel?
So I've had Stu Cambridge, who's been on there, who is famous for making cannon fodder. He's worked for Sensible Software. He used to do all the art. Who else have we had? We've had Ashens, big YouTuber who's often reviewed Tat. He's the expert of Tat for sure. I believe that particular episode we talked about him eating some really bad stuff, and also the story of how the settee was formed. So that's an interesting one. And probably the most shocking of all was Daniel Pacina, who is Mr. Johnny Cage from the original Mortal Kombat. That was a very humbling and very odd experience to think, hey, I've uppercut your head off, but you're a really nice guy. But I mean, to plug myself, apologies, but it really is an amazing podcast, even from my own standing. I still go back to listen to it sometimes because the stories he tells of how Mortal Kombat was made, how they, on a shoestring, got around some of the issues that they went through, how the Get Over Here was formed, and all of those great things. And it was just such an honor to be able to talk to such amazing people like him. And, you know, the podcast was actually started by accident. I mean, I can go into the quick story of how that happened if you want.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So basically, like I said, I'd originally streamed for Special Effect. I've got a couple of their cards on the wall here. So every year they do this event called Game Blast, and at the end of the second day, because I streamed on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. On the end of the first day, a couple of my friends started calling me on Discord while I was playing the game. They were like, "Get me on." I'm like, I'm in the middle of a game, man. What's wrong with you? And they're like, just get me on. Right. So anyway, I opened it and my mate pops up and stuff, and we're talking and stuff. And then someone else joined. So I was like, well, that's the game done. Let's just have a chat. So we start, you know, a bit of banter starts and this, that, and the other. And it's like, you can start doing silly stuff for money and this, and then a third person joins who's a good friend of mine, which is Neil from RMC Retro. Big fan of mine. In fact, I've got a lovely picture of Neil here. He hates this picture, but I love it. It was also taken at Play Expo, which is this. So there's a wonderful picture of Neil. Neil looking well gangster, yeah?
Yeah.
So there is Neil looking well gangster. But so he came on, and then we were talking about talking about all sorts of stuff. I did some crazy stuff. I can't remember. I think I had a pharaoh hat on me at one stage, dancing to the Bangles or something ridiculous. So there was that. And it got to the end of day one, and people were starting to message me on Twitter and then on Discord and a few other things. And they were like, "Oh, so you're doing this again tomorrow?" And I was like, "Well, if I can get hold of the people, then yeah." Day two came, and then it became this kind of ad-libbed podcast and stuff like that. And then it got to the end of that day, and I finished Game Blast, and we raised a crazy amount of money. I think it was like just shy of $1,000, I think, if I remember rightly. And people were going, "So when's your next one?" And I went, "Next what?" And they were like, "Your next podcast." And I went, what? So I sat there and I went, all right, so I guess I have a podcast now? So I was like, okay. So I sat back and I went, well, I'm going to need to brand it. I'm going to need this. I'm going to need to do that. So I invited my good friend Steady Sphere, who actually does brilliant video reviews, by the way. So if you've not, sorry to shout out everyone here, but they need to be said. But Steady Sphere is an amazing YouTuber. If you've not actually seen, oh, look at that charming man. Who is that? Who is that guy? He's been hella photoshopped. Anyway, so yeah, Steady Sphere is a fantastic guy, and he was actually the first guest on the podcast, which is why it starts at number 3, because the first 2 were just chaos, and you wouldn't want to listen to it.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah,
so that's why it starts at number 3, because 1 and 2 are just chaotic. I may release them at some point, but yeah, it's just madness. But yeah, I've had the privilege of interviewing some incredible people. I mean, I just saw Amiga Bill there. And he has one of the most fascinating day jobs ever. So he's actually a filmmaker. And he actually did a documentary on Mike Tyson. And he goes through the story of what it was like to be around Mike Tyson and film with him. And to be honest, the story is quite interesting. It didn't go how I thought it would go. But again, I've had the real privilege of speaking to some incredible people. But, you know, I guess the one piece of advice for people is if there's something you're interested in doing, just go for it. I was very seldom in myself. I never really had the confidence to push myself out there. And I guess through people saying, podcast going, which is why I kind of sat there and went, wow, this is a really cool thing that I've now started. And I've kind of paused it for the minute because I'm actually waiting for a new bit of tech to arrive. So until that arrives, I don't really want to carry on with it. But we'll see. It's been a crazy ride. The fact that I'm at 25 minus 2 episodes of the podcast is amazing, and I've really had such a brilliant ride so far doing it. And to be honest, and this is going to sound really controversial, I actually prefer doing the podcasting than I do streaming or actually making YouTube videos, because there's just something about talking to some of these incredible people that you learn a lot of them as well, and it's just nice to actually have that interactivity. And I think that comes back to what I said about the streaming. Sometimes you don't get that face-to-face value. Again, massively supported by some incredible people, and I have an amazing community who are supporting. But it's just something about the podcast that I really like. And I kind of grew up listening to Joe Rogan podcast and a variety of other different podcasts, and I always wanted to do it. So the fact that I can even run this podcast from a tiny little flat is incredible. So yeah, it's been a hell of a journey so far.
Excellent.
Brilliant. And I noticed when I was just scrolling through your page the other day, you've got merchandise, and I see you've got a hat on inspired by the NWO. So, but really, that's your inspiration, I guess. So, big WCW NWO fan growing up.
Yeah, so I used to watch a lot of wrestling when I was younger. I mean, I do have the standard corporate branded, as I call it, the standard issue MMD. But I like to play around with things every so often. So yeah, but it's wrestling's always been a huge part of my life. And it's funny you said about Saturday mornings, because I remember that Sky One used to show the early morning reruns of SmackDown. So that was like a huge part of my Saturday mornings, was watching that and then sort of going out and playing football with my mates. But funny enough, I actually said this to Alex. What I would love to do is to have the O2 Arena full, like, pyrotechnics, the lot, filled to the brim, a proper retro gaming WWE style, where we get all of the best people from the retro gaming, from modern day to current era to, from the Games World era to Games Master and stuff. And we just have this one big epic event, and we have like full entrances and crazy stuff. Call it the WrestleMania of retro. That's what I would love to see in my lifetime. Whether it's possible, I don't know, but we'll see.
You'd have 5 tickets here straight away.
Yeah.
Get it. Come on.
Only another 15,500 to go at the O2. I'm sure something like that would be popular. Retro is huge at the moment, especially retro gaming is massive. And this last 18 months of being in lockdown has made it even bigger, I think.
100%.
I think I know
a lot of people say they're bad, but I actually think a lot of the mini consoles that came out actually helped push that retro revival back, because it introduced people to games that maybe they hadn't seen before. You know, if Dad goes out to buy these SNES minis and suddenly it's set up in the living room, they're going, "Oh, what's that?" And it's like, "This, son, it was one of the best consoles ever made." You know, and then like, you know, you have the Mega Drive one, and that same conversation probably had in households all over the year. But we want a Dreamcast Mini, Sega.
Yeah, big time. But I recently had that with my boy because we set up the SNES Mini, and I managed to get more games on it. But we were playing Mario, and the bit when you can jump up and go warp and get his face was just like, "What have you just done?" You know, and you go to like World 4 or whatever.
Good God, he's broken the game, damn it!
Yeah, schooling him. Yeah. So that was quite a good moment.
I have for me, those.
That's where I go.
Sorry, but I was going to say certainly the mini console, especially the Super Nintendo one for me anyway. There's a whole bunch of games that I didn't get to play when I was younger because, you know, back then, you know, you'd get a game for your birthday, maybe a game for Christmas. Everything else was trade, and that's about it. So for me, I never got to play Earthbound, and that was or Mega Man X, and that I know you could get it on the iPad, but playing it on the iPad was just guff. So being able to play both of those games comfortably using a Super Nintendo controller was like, well, now I haven't got to fork out like, you know, 600 quid for Earthbound boxed because I refuse to buy things without a box at the moment, which is not a good habit to get into.
Yeah. The fact that you used the word guff, I massively rate you for. Good job.
Go on, Triangle Face. I know you've been trying to.
No, I was just saying when I was kid, we just had a Mega Drive. I think a lot of people probably say you can only afford one console in your house when you're that age. We had a Mega Drive. To then get like the mini SNESes and things like that when they come out, finally going back and getting a chance to play them properly. And I always remember like going to a mate's house. We had some family friends that lived near where my grandparents lived, and we'd only see them like once a year. They would like go over after Christmas and then go visit them before coming home. And they had a SNES, so every time we go in there, bear in mind, you know, family friends, you wouldn't see them for a year. I'd come in, probably now I was like 10 or something. I'm like, "Hi, where's the SNES?" And I'm going straight up to his room.
See you later.
Mario. It's my one time a year I get to play on Mario 3. I'm going to go back home and play something.
Going back to a story like that, and we were mentioning the 32X. I remember my dad's mate, who I always thought was cooler than any of his other mates, had a Mega Drive before anyone else. And I remember going around there, and he had a 32X set up. And he had virtual racing, and you know, I had my Mega Drive at home, and I remember that drive home being, "I want a 32X, I want a 32X." I'm so glad that my parents didn't buy me that now.
I didn't get one either.
I don't know if anyone had those mates that you'd go around their house and they wouldn't openly say that they've got something new. They would just kind of stand next to it proudly and just be like, Did he do that thing where he was just like, "Did you notice something different in this room?" Yes. 32X different. That's what we're looking at. You can see that? I have that. But do you know what's really weird is that, and I still experience this now, is like you said, when we were kids, yes, I agree. We do need a Master System Mini. Yes, I agree. Yeah. Sega, do it. As a kid, like you said, we only normally got a game or two a year and stuff. And I feel like now there's almost overprivilege. You know, you can just get games like very easily now. And I feel like we're spoiled because there's sometimes where I'm like, "Oh, what should we play today?" And I'll kind of grab a console and come back. And I'm like, I've got a whole cupboard full of stuff in here. And I'm like, and you're kind of going, maybe no. You know, before it was like, "What game do I play?" The only one I've got. But there are, I mean, that in hindsight, there are some. Oh, sorry, looking to the future, there are some amazing platforms out there. I mean, I'm sort of working with one at the moment called Pie Packer. Strange name, I know, but it does have a story behind it, and it is an amazing platform. You know, it's literally all running the cloud. In fact, I actually streamed it not so long ago where if you want to play multiplayer with people, you literally send them a URL, send them that, and they just join straight away. And I was like, this is brilliant. Wow. And now they actually have the ability of actually bringing your own ROMs up. So as long as you do a backup of your own ROMs and you drag that ROM in, you can actually play that online with someone else. So like I was sitting here playing Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo. Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Dragged the ROM in, sent the link to my friend, and we were playing 2-player, and it was literally like zero lag. So it unlocks a whole new area of gaming. And you know, with a lot of us being still home based, it's still a nice way of being able to play the old games, but in a much more easier platform. So if you've not checked out PyPacker, go and do it. It's a great service.
I do get the adverts come up on my Facebook quite a lot for PyPacker.
We'll all have it now. Yeah, we'll all have it now from hearing it loudly. That's it. We'll just get PyPacker out.
But no, it does look a cool concept. But we're going to move on now to a feature that we didn't have last week. Dawbs was too scared to do it with Big Boy Barry here. We do a feature
starstruck. I was too starstruck, mate.
Are you saying I'm too good? I'm good looking. That's why you're sort of bringing out the red carpet.
100%. Yeah.
Are you saying that I'm better looking than Alex? Is that what you're getting? I'm looking for anything, by the way.
Sorry, you broke up there. I didn't quite catch that.
That's right.
But we've got a new intro to this. I spent all of about
10
seconds.
Thank you, Triangle Face Mate, who's done the tune for this. I spent all of 2 minutes making the picture for it earlier today, but we'll give it a go.
What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box?
Yeah, well, there you go. I spent all of 2 minutes on that earlier today. So
very good. I don't know what to say about that.
That's
entertaining.
Every time we've ever done that, I keep trying to do that Brad Pitt impression of what's in the box, and then someone's put it in the intro. So there we go. It's come full circle.
That is courtesy of Mark L.
Sorry, Triangle Face.
I said that's courtesy of Mark L. of Bad Belly. If you want to look him up on Spotify or music platforms, or he's Bad Belly 123 on YouTube. If you want to check out.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mark.
I wonder how he got that username. Maybe it was a bad night out curry.
I think Bad Belly's a gut feeling that something.
He's on the sauce.
We'll get the Bad Belly.
Yeah. So,
well, you're going to explain the rules to Dean.
Yeah, you've probably never seen this, Dean. You've probably never seen any of our streams, but basically, I've got
I'm the duck.
A very lovely box, as you can see. It's very nice. It looks like a child's colour at the end, but it was all my own handiwork.
Other kitchen appliance makers are available.
I shouldn't have spun it around so far. But there's something in there, so it's retro related. So it could be a console, a game, peripheral, a manual. Anything like that. So they got 20 questions, but before I go on, I have a little shout out. Now, I don't know if this chap is watching. He put a comment in earlier, but I've had a bit of fan mail. It's true. I've had a little bit of fan mail from, I think this chap's probably our youngest fan, and he's just caught up with, I understand he started to watch our streams. So big shout out to Joyd Moynard. Hello, Joyd. Hello, Jude. Hope you're well. I hope you're enjoying all the streams, and I'd like to see you in the comments, but you've probably gone to bed. Yeah, he's not there. He's got. I've seen a few videos with him and his sister Emma, and they do videos with their mum and dad. Now, the mum's a good actress, but I think the dad can do a little bit better, if I'm honest. He did a news article, and yeah, he wasn't a very good actor. But shout out to Jude. Hello, Jude. Or hey, Jude. So. Inside here, I've got something. So you've got 20 questions. All the panel's got 20 questions, and I can only say yes or no. So shoot, go. Who's going to start?
Should I go first as the guest?
Yeah, yes, you go first.
Dean, does it fit in the palm of your hand?
If you've got a palm of the hand of Andre the Giant, then probably yes. But yes, we'll do. Yeah.
Okay.
Go on, Blunters. We'll work our way down and then back up to Ollie as the duck at the top.
Is it a game? A disc?
No.
Is it cartridge?
Yes.
Is it in any way related to our guest tonight? Is it something to do with something that MeanMachineDean might have talked about or have some sort of history with?
No.
What's he got in the background?
Damn, because I knew what the next guest would have been.
I have MeanMachineDean's YouTube video.
There's a little chap there. I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
I had a feeling it's maybe a copy of Smash Tennis, but obviously.
Yeah, so I was thinking.
Very good.
Is that
Very
a
good,
question?
No.
My question was more general. I
So
was
it's
trying to narrow it
cartridge.
down.
Okay, so it's cartridge bait. Is the cartridge grey?
Yes. I think you're going to get this one.
So it's going to be one
So
of
it must
three.
be oh no, it can't. No, there's more than one, isn't there? Oh god.
Now you've piqued my intrigue. Does the connectors on the cartridge have a single row?
Hang on. Let me just open up the box.
We don't ask technical questions like this.
No,
So.
You see, this is how
That
you
is a
work out what
technical one.
console it's in, you see?
That's a good question. Yes, it does.
A single row of.
So what does that mean then? What
So
does
is,
that eliminate?
is this from the Super Nintendo?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. I thought it may have been another platform. That's fine.
Is it a sports game?
Yes, it is, Oliver. It is a sports game.
Okay, we're narrowing it down much quicker. We're getting quicker.
You're going to get it. I'm telling you, you're going to get this one.
Is it a football game?
No.
Is it when you say sports game? Is it an American sport?
No.
Not an American sport, but play. So it's not an American sport. Do American sports players play the game?
Yes.
Okay, that unlocks a few more things then.
How many questions have we got?
You've got 9 left.
Ooh.
No pressure, but we've never won apart from the episode that we no longer talk about. So
come on, positive thinking. Come on, come on.
Yeah,
no, that was Retro Chef won that, didn't he?
Yeah, he won it in the chat. God, it's tense. We're losing viewers here. So
do you want to play your?
Is it not? So it's American sports, you're saying? Not American Gladiators.
Is it American Gladiators?
No.
I think we just established it's not American sport, but a sport that Americans play.
Go on then, Tendolly.
I'm just going to start guessing games. I think that's going to be my trouble.
Great game, that though. Pete Sampras.
Is it a boxing game?
No.
Okay, I'm going to take a steer from Neil in the comments and ask if it's a tennis game.
It is, Neil. Well done.
No way, I was going to say that.
Is it Pete Sampras tennis?
No, you've got 5 left.
Okay,
I'm going to have to ask it, aren't I? Is it Smash Tennis?
No.
No.
I don't know any other tennis games.
I thought you were setting that one up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a letdown. That would have been a really nice way to end the stream if that was the...
Someone else can go if they've got something. I don't know any other tennis games.
£5 on eBay, you type bastard.
I shall explain later.
Well, there are 2 tennis games. The one I said is one, and then there is another that's very similar to it, which it could be.
Say it.
Super tennis.
Is that your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Dean, should we have a quick look?
Oh, I'm going to say Anna Kournikova, but that was PS1, wasn't it?
There it is, Super Tennis. Well done, Dean.
Tennis.
Put these boys to shame, I'm telling you. Now, there is
beautiful.
There is quite a funny, and there's a single row. There is quite not funny, but there is a story about this. Obviously, I did my research and found out you played Smash Tennis, and I wrote down Super Tennis. So I went on eBay, bought a copy of Super Tennis, then listened to your podcast again, your YouTube channel again, that video with Alex, and then it was Smash Tennis. So I was like, oh, for God's sake. So what I tried to do on Sunday evening, I went on eBay, looked for Smash Tennis. There was loads of them there. but the delivery was like a week's time, so it wouldn't be enough. But in retrospect, I'm quite glad I didn't pick Smash Tennis, because you asked if it was Smash Tennis 4 questions in, which would have been a world record. So well done, Dean. Many congratulations. You put these boys to shame. Yet again, they still haven't got one right. Absolutely shocking.
Well, with John Barnes, and what was the other one? Britney's dance beat.
Oh well, I'll just have to put my. I'll just have to treat myself and put this on then. Okay. I'll just keep myself warm with this Games World Eliminators jacket, which Alex Big Boy Berry doesn't have. Do you, Alex? I can't believe he never got one. I'm astonished. The man who was on the show never got a jacket.
By the sounds of it, he's nicked everything else apart from that.
That is true.
He did. He said it to me. He's got.
He did. He told me on a podcast. He was like, "I've got this. I've got this," and I'm sitting there going, "You're right, mate. Do you need to? Do you want to confess anything else, or do you want to?" Let me just write this down so I can hand it over to the police. So 1 Barry net, 1.
He had loads of stuff. He
look like a weird turtle now. Let me stop that. I am the turtle of Games World, but anyway.
Right, I'm just scrolling through the chat before we finish this evening, make sure that I haven't missed any questions.
There was a good one I did see, if I may. I think someone said, which retro game would I like to see remastered? Now, I can answer this. I don't know why I'm using a coat hanger. Anyway, let me get rid of that. Welcome to my streams. You're now entering my realm. So a game that I would like to see remastered, and not many people have heard of it, is a game called Magic Pockets, which was made by the Bitmap brothers.
Yeah.
I would love to see a remake of that. The only thing that worries me is that there was a remake done of Gods recently, and it was awful. However, I do have a very cool story. The person who did the soundtrack to Gods is a guy called John Fox, who was actually my tutor at university.
No way.
Awesome.
Yes, very way.
That's pretty cool.
He was actually original lead singer of Ultravox. There you go. I'm sure that will come up
in
Vienna.
Some
yeah, so before Monsieur became the lead singer, John Fox was the original lead singer of Ultravox.
Wow.
So I would love to see Magic Pockets. If you've not played Magic Pockets, please go and play it, because it's an amazing little game. The other reason it means a lot to me is I looked a little bit like him when I was a little nipper on Games World, and it's what my family used to call me for years. So I've got a bit of a thing, a bit of a connection there. And it was actually one of the first games I think we bought for our Commodore Amiga. We went to an Amiga show in, I think it was Earls Court back in the early 90s. It was packed, but I remember gripping that Magic Pockets box and I held it all the way home and then put it into the disk drive and then heard that noise for a while, and then the game loaded. So yes, everyone misses those wonderful days. But so Magic Pockets, I would love to see that remade. Love to see it.
There is a bitmap cart coming out on the Evercade. I don't know if you've heard of the Evercade.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it doesn't include. It includes 3 versions of Speedball. So if you're in a Speedball, it's definitely the cart for you. But it doesn't include Magic Pockets, unfortunately.
Damn them.
Quite similar. I also really liked Mad Professor Mariarty. Came out around the same sort of time. If you ever played that one, that's quite similar. I'd like to see that one again.
I used to like the little pedaling on the Magic Pockets. It was a part.
I
don't know if it was every level. It may have been, but yeah, there was a little, especially on the first level, you sort of pop up to this thing, and there was a tiny little bicycle, and I think you had to wiggle the joystick back and forward in a rhythmical way, and if you did it fast enough, you'd actually pop a wheelie and then just nail all these enemies as you went along to the end bit. It was a great thing. But yeah, I would love to see that game remade. It means such a lot to me, and yeah, so someone remake it, or I'll do it badly.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, definitely. I've got a picture of Magic Pockets here.
It is. See, it's basically the top.
Do you know what? Yeah, that does ring a bell.
Watch.
Does ring a bell.
There you go. There you go. It's basically me. There you go. Job done. There you go. I just need to get a green hat. That's all.
I've definitely never played it, so I'm gonna have to get a copy of that.
No, it honestly is a brilliant game, and yeah, the first level is a bit boring, and then it starts to go very trippy and weird. But yeah, it's a very, very cool game, and yeah, one of my favourite Bitmap Brothers games for sure.
I know SNEStastic mentioned it when he was on our stream, so it's obviously a game that's very popular with the Amiga generation. Definitely. I've got another question here from one of my friends, Cabbage Face Bricks. If you're into Lego, check out that channel. He likes building lots of Lego on there. He's even built the Roman Colosseum, I think. You can watch him build that live, which takes a fair few hours. So if you've got that to kill, watch it.
Nice.
Do you wish they had more game and TV shows now?
Good question. I think, could you do something like Games World now? No. If you did it in the style, like I said, where it was like a WWE thing, maybe, but I don't think it would be able to be applied to the masses. I think this is why websites like IGN and the combination of using YouTube kind of works quite well, because they take certain elements of a TV show and try to spin it into content. Now, unfortunately, over the years, as humans, we've become very lazy and can't digest more than 10 seconds without getting bored, apparently. So in order to do it, I think you would have to take an element of very big egos and try and over the top everything, a bit like what Games will try to do, and in some cases, Games Master as well. So would I like to see it? Yes, because to be honest, streaming fills in a specific void and YouTube fills in a specific void. But I think there's something about watching something broadcast on the TV that you just can't replicate it. You know, I know it sounds slightly hypocritical that we're talking to each other online, but there's just something about watching something that's been made and produced and put together on a, well, I mean, Games World wasn't exactly a huge budget, but you know, it still delivered where it needed to. So I would love to see that happen. I know Games Master, there's a lot of rumors flying around about them bringing that back potentially. So I think, and this is my gut feeling, if the Games Master, you know, revival happens and it's successful, I think it will actually kickstart the thing of getting Games World potentially back as well.
Yeah,
so
let's hope so.
Fingers crossed.
You can have it like the chase can, yeah? Come up. Dun, 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 dun. Here they come up. Right, here he comes. Here comes Big
no, it's Barry again.
Right, he wants to smack. He wants to get beaten.
So who's hosting Games Master if it comes back? Richard Iredale. He does everything on Channel 4, doesn't he?
So,
Yeah.
He'd be good for that. I think he's good on Crystal Maze, and he would suit Games Master. Apart from that, I can't really think of anyone else who Channel 4 have got signed up.
I'm just wondering who's going to replace Patrick Stewart. Yes, I think that's correct.
Patrick Moore.
Patrick Moore, sorry. I always get Patrick Stewart. What do I keep saying that? Star Trek.
I think someone suggested.
Maybe Patrick.
I think someone suggested.
Maybe it's Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart. Yeah, someone suggested Patrick Stewart as the replacement for Patrick Moore.
Oh, okay.
Or
Genius here.
Who played Magneto? His mate. What's he? I can't remember his name.
No, Magneto. Yeah, I know.
Ian McKellen.
That's him. Yeah. I think he'd be good.
Who's the 1 foot in the grave guy? Is he still alive? He'd be quite good.
Meldrew.
I don't believe it.
Go up to Google. Say his favorite catchphrase.
No, I really would love to see that, and I mean, you know, I guess selfishly, I would love to have one more go at Games World and bringing people together. I mean, there's a few people who sadly have obviously passed on. I actually didn't even realise until many moons later the actual grand final winner on the series that I was on actually passed away a few years later, which is a really sad story. So
yeah, definitely.
Again, it would be wonderful to bring back as many people as possible, just so I can publicly beat Barry again. So
okay,
it would be brilliant.
We've just got a message from Neil Churm, who's normally on the panel with us. Another great stream. Dean has been a great guest. He's welcome back anytime. I agree with that.
Absolutely.
Before we go, Dean, next week's stream we've got It's Much More. Check out his YouTube channel, and we've got It's Coming Home special. Obviously, it's Euro 2020 starts next Friday, so we're going to, as a panel, decide the greatest football game pre-2000, and we're going to have 8 games that are going to be finalists on the night, and we're going to debate between us which game is our number 1 football game. So question for you, Dean, what game do you want us to add to that 8 for next week?
If Sensible Soccer's not in there, I will hunt you all down.
It will be in there. 100%. What version do you want?
Here's a little tidbit of information for you. So if you didn't know, Sensible Soccer actually got a remake very recently. So there is Sensible Soccer 2020, which was done by an amazing individual, and it's got full commentary, full rosters of current players, including all the recent transfers and all that's going on, and it's free. just Google SWOS 2020 and you can play it online with people right now. And in fact, you can actually download it and play it on your Amiga, which is how I do it, because I love retro. But which version? I would say Sensible World of Soccer in the Amiga, because that is just, I've got so many memories of playing that with my dad, because it's just so chaotic. Although they did go through a weird period of making some really, I don't know if it was necessarily the game makers who made it, but there was a lot of weird mods where there was like a grenade that was replaced instead of the ball.
That was on a demo disc. I remember that. Yeah, you kicked it around, it used to flash, and then boom.
Yeah, so then you'd be like, who's the last person standing? So it'd be like a goalkeeper versus a defender or something ridiculous. And it'd get a bit hairy if you didn't know what you're doing. But the SWOS 2020 is definitely something I would check out if you're a fan of Sensible Soccer. The amount of detail they've put in it is crazy. So it's got like Jonathan Pierce doing commentary, and I think there's a few others that you can actually download and stuff. So if you've not checked it out, go and check it out. It's brilliant.
Do that now.
It's Sensible World of Soccer.
Sorry, mate. It's suddenly dawning on me that I'm just not going to be able to contribute anything next week.
No, play it. Play it. Even as a non-soccer fan, you will have fun. I guarantee it, because Sensible Soccer is the most light-hearted football game you could ever play. I mean, there are I'm going to go into another realm now. There is another game that means a lot to me, and that is All-Star Soccer on the PS1. Only reason, it's got one of the funniest intros ever. Not seen it? Go and Google it. All-Star Soccer. It's got like a ridiculous looking Des Lynam, like a whole story thing, and it's got like drum and bass like over the top as a soundtrack, and there's like a dodgy Eric Cantona impression. It's brilliant. Go and check it out.
Okay, so you want us to add Sensible World of Soccer 94-95 to next week?
That's the one. That's the one.
Brilliant.
So on Sensible Soccer, just quickly, Sensible World of Soccer, can you remember any players that you, when you started the game, you always bought?
Oh, good question.
I can remember what you think, Dean, as a Southampton fan, we only had one expensive player on it, Matt Letizia, and he was like my hero, but it was the only way I could generate money, so he was straight out the door.
Gone.
4.5 million gone. So
Matt, I really like you, but here's your P45, mate. Your taxi's outside, yeah? See that, Matt? See that? Good luck, Tess. Cheers, mate. But funny enough, I was actually going to say Letizia. Because he wasn't super expensive compared to some of the other players.
I think was he 4.5 million? I'm sure
he was 4.5 million.
Like yeah. But I mean, as a United supporter myself, most of the United team were all right. But the thing is, like with Sensible Soccer, I never picked like the top teams. I always wanted to play the absolute garbage just for a laugh. Because if some plays you take a shot and it goes top corner, I don't want that. I want to see shots going like off into the corner and stuff like that. I want to see the ridiculousness in the game. So yeah, I'd always play like Division 2, because Division 1 is now the old. Hang on, Premier League is now the old. It was the old Division
1. Yeah.
So it would have been Division 2 was what I used to pick in Sensible Soccer. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a Pompey fan and always used to be Pompey, and we was in Div 1 as it was back then, which is now the Championship. I think the Preki was a good player in that team, but all my go-to player, I had two, was Marcel Desailly, who was amazing in that game.
Strong start.
And also Paul Williams, but he was so quick. Honestly, if you get it now, get Paul Williams, because he was one of the quickest players in that game, and he was literally next to nothing. So get Paul Williams. He was fantastic.
I'll tell you who I found on it recently, and I know we're going to be talking about this next week. I'm kind of ruining my stories here, but I played it fairly recently, and I think Croatia Zagreb have got a young Mark Viduka, and he's like 450,000, and he's a beast up front on that game, and he actually increases in value, which is very rare on Sensi, because most players have just devalue as soon as you buy them.
Straight away.
See, not being a football fan, my go-to teams are always in a pencil case and pizza topping.
Yes, they did have the custom-made teams.
Yeah, so I used to play them. We used to be like pizza toppings versus in a pencil case.
We'd have an all ginger team. That's what I used to go for. Just a completely ginger team, just to put off your mate. It'd be like, "Why is all your team ginger?" Weren't expecting that, were you?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, on behalf of the panel, Dean, you've been a brilliant guest tonight, and
thank you.
You've shared some great stories with us. And as Neil said, and I'm sure we'll all agree, you'll be welcome back here anytime. Just give us a shout. And I hope everyone's enjoyed watching this evening and enjoyed Dean as a guest. Thanks to Triangle Face for stepping in at the last minute again. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, check out our other videos, and we'll see you all next week for It's Coming Home special. Come on, England!
Come on.